everyone.
I'm back, baby.
It's Jake Ciely.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
no. It's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
You know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
What's up, you ducks? I'm sure there's everybody wants to give out Infinity Ducks after week 9. Holy hell, if you made it through on any level, fantasy, betting, survivor, or whatever, congratulations for surviving the apocalypse. We had, bi-apocalypse earlier? What was that, like, death apocalypse? I don't know. Hopefully you're here. Tino and I were texting over the weekend, and I appreciate you guys from 2 weeks ago. We're like, maybe we'll have therapy Mondays. You can just vent in the chat, and maybe I'll come up with my best Ted Lasso quote or something like. I don't even know. But if you want to go ahead and vent, go right ahead. At Chris Meaney, you want to make sure you're following him. NHL is rocking. His picks are rocking over at FTN. If you want the code ALLIN, 20% off over there. And join The Athletic. Hockey coverage is there as well. Yeah, theathletic.com/BetsTV. All capitals. If you want to check that out, it was gross. Chris, thank you, too. I don't know who to blame here. Do I blame Tua for having a broken hand and having to pivot off the Dolphins because I didn't like that with no Tua? Or do I blame the Cowboys for just laying a giant egg and knocking me out of my giant, super big survivor that's down to now 70 people that I could have been in? And, a lot of loonies on the line there.
Yeah, you blame the Cowboys, right? You blame the Dallas Cowboys is what you do. I'm completely out of Survivor as well. I thought I dodged a bullet last week with a lot of people losing, and I lost half of my Survivor leagues last week with Cincinnati, and I'm like, I'm gonna roll with Dallas. I could have rolled with the Colts. Shout out to Matty Wood, Matthew Friedman, and I are in a Survivor together, and we had the talk on Thursday night, and we said, we feel a little bit better about Dallas at home against Denver. Let's roll with them.
I felt good about the Colts. Here's the thing. I legitimately forgot to do because of work. I forgot. Like Thursday Survivor just doesn't click in my mind. Like Survivor doesn't click in my mind until like Saturday.
And I don't like to take teams on Thursdays either, like because weird stuff happens. And you know what? Honestly, if Mike White hung around in that game, I'm still not convinced that at least maybe. Would have got, as a guy who backed the Jets at plus 10.5, maybe would have got that with Mike White under center. But man, if you thought last week was weird, well, I guess week 9? Week 9 topped it. I mean, my goodness, there was a lot of crazy things that happened. And I don't know about your leagues, but most of my leagues, Jake, when I'm looking at them again, the matchups, they're all in the red. Like, how like Yahoo or whatever gives you projections,
whatever it is.
Underscore across the board, red everywhere.
It's funny you say that. That's one of the various reasons I always tell people don't look at the projected box score for your two teams when you're trying to decide. Like, don't ever look at your box score and be like, oh, I'm projected to lose by 25. I need a home run in my flex. No, evaluate your team. Look at your team. Decide if your flex needs it, not what the matchup tells you, because it's just always all over the place. I had one last week, projected to score 90, scored 140. Like, you never know. Like, evaluate your team. So, yeah, feel free to vent with the rest of us. It was Therapy Mondays, like I said. That was Tino's idea. Maybe that's what we'll do. So we're talking about the game real quick. We don't usually spend too much time on Thursday Night Football, but I guess here's one question for you, Chris. Now that Derrick Henry's done for the year, is Jonathan Taylor the number one running back? Because Christian McCaffrey's back.
Yeah, I mean, McCaffrey's back, and you'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. Dalvin Cook went nuts, but yeah, I mean, what Taylor's doing right now is phenomenal. He looks really good. The offensive line is healthy. Carson Wentz looks good. The offense looks really nice. The schedule does turn a little bit. I think it gets tougher for them moving forward. But yeah, I mean, we're splitting hairs, but I'd put him in the conversation. Him, Cook, CMC.
I wonder if I can, while we're asking this next question, I wonder if I could put a poll as your audio comes up, because I pulled up the YouTube page. I was going to see if I could put a poll in, because I know you can on certain people. Let's see if we can. So the next question, just out of that game before we move on to yesterday's insanity. Pittman looked great again, so we're fine. We're all in on Pittman. Carter didn't have the game most people expected it to, also because the game didn't really go as we expected it to. So Michael Carter, down game. Ty Johnson still being Ty Johnson. I don't know if you saw that, Chris. Did you love that troll that waited till like 5 minutes left in the game? It was like, this is why we don't trust Ty Johnson. And then the very next play, he scored a touchdown. It was like,
Scored a touchdown, yeah.
That's what happens when you wait till the last second of the game to try to play the troll game. But Michael Carter, Elijah Moore, because Elijah Moore is still he's the Rondell Moore at the beginning of the year. He's still far down on depth, opportunities, snaps, targets, everything like that. But he's producing. Do you hope this forces them to use more Elijah Moore, or if Corey Davis comes back, are you concerned about Elijah's production and this is just, hey, sell high if you got him, and then will Michael Carter rebound?
Yeah, I mean, I would consider selling high if you own him. You could make him available to your league mates, but I liked what I saw last week, and I think that moving forward, they got to try to get this guy more involved. Jamison Crowder's on the final year of his deal. He's never really been a guy that can just stay healthy for you. Corey Davis, as you mentioned, is hurt. When's he going to come back? Obviously, that would put Denzel Mims behind the pecking order, but, you got back-to-back weeks here where he's gotten 14 targets, 13 grabs. He's topped 100 yards. He's had at least 6 targets in 3 straight games. I see what you see as well. We brought it up last week as a guy that was just 4th on his team in routes run and targets and snaps. But when he's on the field, they find a way to get him involved. I really like this schedule moving forward. I mean, Buffalo's tough this week, but Miami, Houston, Philadelphia, you got Miami week 15, and then you got Jacksonville week 16. Heck, he may even be available on your waiver wire. He's 27% owned in Yahoo leagues, and fewer than that, ESPN's. I'm into him. But I also would make him available, see what you could get. You should always do that, especially these guys coming off big weeks.
No question about it. So
you're making that poll. I hear you typing. Poll.
No, I was trying to make. You can't. I guess you have to have like some special privilege access. Something. I don't know. That's what I was trying to look up to figure it out. So, breaking news as we're doing this, and so we'll jump into we'll jump to the Arizona game for this. Arizona. So Chase Edmonds high ankle sprain is the belief.
Oof.
Yeah. So this really what it comes down to is holy crap, James Conner. Which look, nobody expected Chase Edmonds to be knocked out at the beginning of the game. But even before that, James Conner has been scoring touchdowns like it's his job. What it is his job. Scoring touchdowns better than anybody. On a pace that eclipses LaDainian Tomlinson's 28 touchdown season. That's how ridiculous his pace is for touchdowns. With no Chase Edmonds, here's the question, Chris. Is James Conner an RB1?
Yeah. Don't you think? I do. I mean, it's looking like, man, I wish I had some Conner shares because he was free. He was basically free. I know that he's, like you said, he's scoring touchdowns at a crazy clip. I mean, he only has 454 rushing yards. He had 96 yesterday. It was not a career day for him, but a season day
he's
for
kind
him.
of on
We'll say that.
LeGarrette Blount did have, 1,100 yards that
or
year?
something, didn't he?
Yeah, so he's kind of similar to that pace. But, yeah, because Benjamin got brought in. Benjamin scored.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
they're probably going to use him somewhat in the Edmonds role, but it probably won't be as heavy as Edmonds' workload was because he's Benjamin. So let me spin it this way for you now, Chris. There's the follow-up question. I think everybody thinks the same. James Conner, RB1. James Conner, backfield to himself, quote unquote, like 70% workload for James Conner. James Conner was already a top 20 running back with 50% of the workload. Now you give him 70, he's an RB1. Here's the follow-up question. Do you sell James Conner if you can get RB1 value? Because if I can get RB 10, 11, 12 value, like just under Nick Chubb, kind of in the, people don't want to pay up for Joe Mixon because there's always the concern he gets hurt again. So probably like around that Joe Mixon, like fringy RB1, I get out of there because what happens if Conner, again, at this point of his career with how many injuries he's had, gets hurt? Or what if the split is more pronounced than we think it might be, because that was a game that we're like, what if they're like, no, we're going to give Benjamin 45% of the work because we just don't want to get James Conner hurt. So if you get that fringe RB, I'm assuming you get out, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a big name running back, I think I would be fine with getting Mixon. Just did a trade show with Pat Mayo this morning. We talked a lot about maybe Saquon. The Giants' schedule is pretty nice. Like, would you take that risk if you were up near the top of your fantasy league? Yeah, I mean, I think that's a risk that you should take. You're up in the top. You looks like you're going to go to the playoffs. Connor's been a big part of your team. You've been rolling him out at flex every week. He's scoring you double-digit fantasy points. But if you'd ask anybody, you ask me, ask you, people watching, they know this. From week 15 to 17, who would you rather have healthy, Connor or Barkley? You're taking Saquon in that situation. So now it's probably the time. Giants are on a bye too, right? And they come out, and I think they have the Bucks. So they have a tough game right off the hop. So
People are
you
scared
could
of
probably, you could probably make that move. One thing that I did like from Connor yesterday is the catches. Right, he had back-to-back games, 0 catches,
That's-
0 targets. So that's why it's
That's
so
because that was
appealing.
the Edmonds role. That's the only bugaboo is to say is like if he gets more of that work, similar to Elijah Mitchell got receptions yesterday in the same game. I was going to go to him real quick. But if James Conner got that, obviously, again, locked in RB1. But what if that was just, hey, we're not ready. Eno wasn't ready for what we want him to do in this game. We talk about Kenneth Gainwell and the pass protection all the time, and having some things like maybe he's not, maybe it is. So all that being said, I would definitely do the Barkley. Those are the trades I'd be looking for. Like buy lows too, like DJ Moore and a running back. Like if you get DJ Moore and an RB2, like a mid RB2, I'm not telling like get the hell away from James Conner for all intents and purposes. Like but if you get value and help elsewhere, so. Mitchell, Jeff Wilson's back. Jeff Wilson, nothing. So what do you? So what do you take away from this, Chris? Because we're trying to read Kyle Shanahan's mind here. Like me, I said at this point, Kyle Shanahan has told us, like he's definitively told us the truth. He's told us Elijah Mitchell is his guy. Jeff Wilson, it was his first game back, but here's where I say Elijah Mitchell is still his guy because Jeff Wilson was back, quote unquote, early. Like. They were saying it could have been another week or two, and they said some people didn't expect Jeff Wilson to be ready and activated this week, and that he might only be activated because Elijah Mitchell was questionable, but he was anyway, and Elijah Mitchell was healthy, and Trey Sermon was inactive, which tells me, again, trust Elijah Mitchell.
Yes, I trust him. I trust him, and you look and you only see 8 carries, but that game was just weird, out of hand early,
Sideways
and they only ran the ball. Yeah, that's the biggest thing, and that really surprised me because we haven't seen that yet, right? It was Hasty who caught a couple passes early on in the season, and then I believe last week. But they ran the ball, 9, 10? They ran 9, 10, 11 times. 11 times. One was Ayuk, one was Hasty for 2, one was Jimmy. So he had basically 95% of the carries out of the backfield when you just take out the quarterback and the wide receiver there. So I'm encouraged. He's getting those touches. He's getting those carries. They clearly like this guy. They do not like Sermon. Yes, Jeff Wilson could come in and get a goal line carry. I'm not saying that is not possible. In fact, I put money on it that Jeff Wilson will have a goal line carry for a touchdown at some point this season.
I have a trade for you. Here's one. Let's go back real quick to Connor. Yeah. I will give you Deebo Samuel and James Robinson for James Conner.
Yes.
Okay, no, but you said yes easy. But I'm just saying, but that's, those are the kind of, and I'm not saying not my league. People are too smart. I'm just saying, how about this one? Well, I'll give you one more, and then we'll move on for this. Michael Carter and Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I would take that too. The Niners schedule is fantastic. I love Deebo. Ayuk had a big game.
That's where I want to go with
but
this.
I still like Deebo.
Deebo buy low, Ayuk back to relevant. 2-part question there for you.
Buy low Deebo, yes.
Okay.
Maybe Ayuk. What is this? 2 straight games now for Brendan Ayuk? I needed to see a second
Shanahan
one.
Said there was something wrong with him. We hate Shanahan. There's a lot of people out there yesterday too saying that he should be one of the first coaches fired. Like, at what point do we look at Shanahan's win-loss record and realize it's one of the worst since he's been a head coach? Realize yesterday's type of games with no Kyler Murray, no DeAndre Hopkins, you lose Chase Edmonds early, and you lose a game that should have and it didn't even look competitive for most of it. At what point does he lose the job? That being said, it's kind of funny that we play this like we hate Shanahanigans, but when I go back to the Elijah Mitchell thing, is when he tells us facts and when he's consistent in his facts, nobody wants to believe him, but I do. What has he told us the entire time? There's something wrong with Ayuk. He's not 100%. He's not playing the way we want him to. And for the past 2 weeks, he has, and now he's getting the snaps and the opportunities back. I'm back in on Brandon. I had Brandon Ayuk in the 40s. I wanted to, and I should have trusted my gut. In my gut, I wanted to put him in the top 35.
Yeah, I know. Me too. It's a guy that's he has been slowly trending up. And I thought the addition of Kittle would actually, help him. But I thought this week with Kyler and Hopkins trending in the wrong direction, I thought San Fran would be able to control the game. I was with you
on that one. I was expecting it to go the other side of it.
Yeah, and Shanahan is completely overrated. My goodness, it seems like they've botched this NFL draft too. I mean, yeah, they got Elijah Mitchell, great, but they spent that pick on Sermon. Who knows? Are they going to make this switch here? I suppose that they traded up
spend that to get that pick on Trace.
Right on top of it. And then I was thinking about the Ayuk thing, how they took him in the first round, and that they're not getting him involved. But you're right. Shanahan did say he wasn't 100%. He was dealing with the hamstring. He was hardly a factor in the first couple weeks. I didn't believe that Trent Sherfield was like that good where Ayuk couldn't get on the field. Like that I didn't buy at all. But man, he's good. Like he showed last year that he was good. Now there was nobody around when he was getting all those targets, but he proved to me that he's a guy that should be getting at least 5 or 6 targets, not 2 and 3 is what was happening the first few weeks.
Right.
But the Rams this week, that quarterback change is going to happen, isn't it? It won't happen this week against the Rams, but week 11 against Jacksonville, we may see Trey Lance in there. That could change everything. But I think a lot of these guys are
what I said the
lows.
entire time, the 49ers have to fall out of competition. So
and they're done.
Do you know what's in my hand, Chris? Do you know what I'm holding
What's
right now?
in your hand?
Poop.
No.
Because I want to know
Chris.
three teams. Who gets it? It's either Cincinnati, Dallas, or Buffalo. Who was the biggest poop yesterday?
It's got to be the Bills. It has to be the Bills, right? I mean, they're 14.5-point favorites. They didn't score a freaking touchdown. They didn't have a touchdown yesterday. They couldn't move the ball. I like the Jags game plan. It kind of, when I was watching, it kind of seemed like they were just playing over the top. It was almost like prevent defense. It was like, okay, you're not going to beat us over the top. We're going to generate as much pressure as you can. We know that you're not going to run the football.
Everybody who plays in half and full point PPR was fine with the box score yesterday for the Bills. Holy cow. What, they averaged like 4 yards a catch? You know what the funny thing is?
Crazy.
You say that. I don't want. We're gonna get to the game, but this is why. So I'll save it. We're gonna talk about the Giants. We're gonna tie in the Giants after this game because it's relative what you were talking about there. But what I say is like not just Survivor. I'm so tired. By the way, I don't know if you heard this, Chris, but Josh Allen had a better game than Josh Allen.
The Josh
we
Allen
got
Bowl.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun for the time. It was a lot of fun for the fact that he sacked, fumbled, and intercepted. So like, hey, yeah,
fun.
it was. We had the hat trick. Somebody said he hit for the cycle. I'm like, that's a hat trick. Cycle's 4. That's 3. Like, use the hockey term. Get it right.
Yes, come on.
But anyway, jokes aside, laughing aside, whatever it might be. Do we expect the Bills to bounce back next week? But I think the biggest one is, again, Sanders, Diggs, and Beasley had okay games given half and full point PPR, but it's really Josh Allen, the quarterback, and Zach Moss, which were the 2 biggest letdowns.
Yeah, Josh Allen I thought he was awful. I know he had like a lot of pressure, but some of these things that we've seen from like big time quarterbacks extending plays, right? We saw it last night with Stafford. I guess he was just trying to get rid of that football in the end zone. Carson Wentz did the same thing. Everybody was all over him. I think people were a little easy on Stafford yesterday, considering it's the exact same thing that Wentz did. But Patrick Mahomes extending plays. Like
I was
what
about to say,
Allen
Josh Allen looked like Patrick Mahomes.
He did
not a
on
good
that
thing
one
right
play.
now.
No, when he had that pick on 3rd and 15 or whatever, like he just threw it up. Dude, take the sack and punt the ball away. You're playing the Jags. Don't give them the ball at midfield, an opportunity to, for them to score points when you're struggling on offense. He looked awful yesterday. He's the MVP favorite heading into the week. That took some shots. But honestly, this schedule, like, who have they played? They played Miami, they played Washington, they played Houston, they played Miami, they played Jacksonville. It gets a lot tougher for Buffalo moving forward. I have some concerns a little bit about this Bills team. I think that they're going to bounce back, Jake, like this week against the Jets.
Yes. But
the Colts, the Saints, you got the Pats twice. You got to go into Tampa Bay. Carolina can't get anything going on offense, but they're still a good defense. To me, they laid the biggest egg, 14.5. Yeah, it's a tough schedule.
By the way, did you see what the line opened up for already for
against the Jets?
For week 10? Yeah.
What is it, 14 again?
13. I said, how do you feel if you're the Jets? You just watched the Jacksonville Jaguars beat them 9-6, and you still open as 13-point dogs.
That's crazy.
They
6 points in Jacksonville
material for the Jets. They really
yeah,
did.
they really did. They really did. You know what? Good on the Jags. Not just Josh Allen. I mean, that was a cool story, a cool moment. But good on the Jags, for them to get that win at home.
Speaking of the Jaguars, is there really anything to take away from this game? Because there was no James Robinson, so Hyde did okay. It was a bad matchup. Dan Arnold was Dan Arnold, yeah. If you need a tight end, but here's the biggest thing: nothing for Marvin Jones, and nothing for Chenault, who again was behind Jamal Agnew. Like We're done on Chenault. Still, please. Like, I don't know how many weeks in a row I have to say I've been done with Chenault, but are you finally? I know you were holding on just a little bit. But are you finally done with Chenault?
No, I'm with you. Yeah, I think I was interested heading into that bye week. He had that nice week 6 game against Miami, and then there was a bye, and I'm like, I always feel like it's an opportunity to buy guys, because just pick on desperate owners who need to plug in players, and these guys are on bye, so like go get them. But yeah, I mean, it's been brutal for Laviska. I didn't expect anything from Marvin Jones. I mean, with the tough matchup, but it could have been a lot better at the end of the day. At the end of the game, there was a play. I mean, Trevor Lawrence just missed him. He would have walked it in for a touchdown, and that would have made his day pretty good. But we keep talking about Dan Arnold heading into last week. He was top 5 among tight ends in targets over the last 4 weeks, and he only played 3 games. And then yet again yesterday, he led his team in targets. It's very clear that they utilize the tight end position. He is the guy moving forward in Jacksonville. I think the rest of the week, he's going to be the leading target guy on that team.
He is top 10
rest of the year.
Actually, where is he this week? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, look, he is number 10. Mr. Steven Anderson at number 4. What the freaking hell? Thank you for nothing. Well, talk about wasted touchdowns. Oh, my God. That's like, okay, what was it, 3 years ago when he was with the Texans? There was like, Steven Anderson could be a thing. Was that? Feels like it was about 3 years ago. Talk quickly in the Giants game. I did want to so one of the things, there's a couple factors here. One is I want to point this out again about the Giants. And if you're looking at wide receiver matchups, because there's going to be a but at the end, but there's a but as in like I also made a mistake. So all this being said, Giants let up a lot of receptions and resultantly a decent amount of yards because what do? Their defense keeps everything in front of them. Everything stays in front. Everything's in front. Right? Catch the ball. It's fine. You caught it for 7 yards. You do it 3 or 4 times. Okay, you're moving down the field, but we're still keeping it in front of you. So Hunter Renfrow, great game. You look at a lot of the effect that people have against them. Catch a lot of balls, not huge production. This defense has been playing really well for the past 3 weeks. However, Chris, I expected Bryan Edwards to show up in the box score. I didn't expect him to have a big fat 0, even though I say all that because I still had Bryan Edwards as a low 30s, I believe, because I expected 3 or 4 catches, even though everything stays in front of the Giants. They do let 1 or 2 slip through at times. I'm saying Bryan Edwards to say this because there's not much to take away from the Raiders. Like, the Raiders were fine. Josh Jacobs looks good. Kenyon Drake's back to being real. Darren Waller bounced back. Hunter Renfrow had a game. Bryan Edwards has a goose egg, and now they signed Deshaun Jackson. Mm-hmm. Is Bryan Edwards one and done? Like, was that it? Like, was this his opportunity and now Deshaun Jackson comes in and it was like any hope you had for Bryan Edwards? Or does this bring another dynamic threat downfield, which also lets Bryan Edwards take some of the attention of the coverage off of him and hold off one more week for Bryan Edwards?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think you hold off. You got KC this week. One more week here. You know what? I didn't think it would be a fantastic game for him. I do have some respect for your Giants corners. So that was what I thought, throw to Hunter Renfrow and, Darren Waller with the bounce back. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt here. The 4 targets, I believe 1 came inside the red zone, just like it did against Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, which he converted for a touchdown. But I have a hard time rolling him out confidence. Like, I'm not going to be able to roll him out, I don't think, in a 12-team league next week. I'm certain it's all about your context, but it's got to be much better against KC. That could be a high-powered offensive game where both teams are scoring some points, even though the Chiefs look absolutely atrocious again on offense. But Jackson coming back, I think, is an issue. He's going to, take that Ruggs role. He's going to take a couple deep shots with him down the field. I'd hold on, right? You picked him up. You probably spent some fab on him. You probably could have sold him, right? His ceiling that was probably the time with the Ruggs thing, but I'd give him one more week, Jake, against KC. This would be the week. You got some decent games coming up too.
If you had to give the Giants receivers a pecking order heading into their and out of their bye, because we don't know if Shepard's back, but hey, Kadarius Toney, there's a time to use him, and they don't. Kenny Golladay does the best of nothing in that day. Obviously, Darius Slade, but heading to the bye, let's say Shepard comes out healthy. What's your pecking order? Because now Kenny Galladay's healthy, Kadarius Toney is healthy, and potentially Shepard's healthy. Saquon Barkley should be back after the bye. Is it Golladay, Shepard, Toney, or is it Shepard, Golladay, Toney? Because I have a feeling you agree with me why the reason I phrased it that way is that Toney is third still. As much as we would love Toney to be the thing, he's still third.
Yeah, it's always going to be Shepard for me, but he's another guy that I just can't trust because he just can't stay healthy. But if you told me that these guys were all healthy, they all seem like Band-Aids right now. If you told me that they were all healthy the rest of the way, I would go, Shepard, Galladay, Tony. Yeah. But
You don't sound super excited about it.
how can you? I guess that game went weird. They just used Booker, revenge. Booker's been good. You could run on Vegas. But
Oh my God,
did anybody have more than 2 targets for a wide receiver in that game?
No, it was all to the tight ends on both sides. It was it was Hunter Renfrow. So it was Hunter Renfrow, Waller, and Jacobs and Drake. And then on the Giants side, it was Booker, the tight ends, and almost essentially nothing. At halftime, Kenny Galladay had the only target and caught it. I think it was for like 19 yards or something, or 9 yards. So I don't know. There was a 9 in there. A niner. Did I just catch a niner?
Yeah.
So real quick question in the chat: Gibson or Carter? This is an interesting one, Chris, because I got to tell you, here's how I'm going to answer it. This is for beef stew. I hate beef stew. I hate anything soup. Soup, like, if I wanted watered down food, like, I would just pour water. It's like, why are we watering our food down? Just eat normal food. Anyway, Gibson or Carter? If I'm going pure safety, I'm actually going Carter. If I'm going for this could be my RB3/4. Like, maybe put it this way. I know Carter's in the equation, but let's say Carter was my 3 and I can get Gibson to pair with him as my RB3. I would take Gibson on the fact that maybe the 13 days off got him healed up. I know inside injuries and everybody reports this is a 3+ week injury. I understand that. I'm not saying I'm better than doctors. I'm not saying that this did heal him. I'm saying because the ceiling for Gibson is still top 10, if I'm going for broke and I can afford the risk, I take Gibson. But if I have risk on my team and I just need wins, I'm actually taking Carter.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. I'm in total agreement with you. I would take Carter, but if it is certain about context, but if you're up near the top and you can get Antonio Gibson for maybe a flex play, I mean, this was the week. I think the window is still open. You had the bye, but you have the Bucs this week, so it's super tough. But the schedule, I mean, Seattle, you can run on Seattle. Las Vegas, you can run on. Dallas twice, week 14 and 16. He had 30% of his fantasy points last year against the Cowboys. You just saw both Denver. You're right. You just saw both Denver backs running, and then the Eagles. I'll say this. I'm not into getting him. I am concerned about Gibson, but if you're up near the top, you could probably get him super cheap, and if you're getting him to be your flex, I think it's worth the risk. But if you're asking me to pick between the two, I would lean with Carter. He's healthy. He looks all right, too.
I'm assuming YouTube messed up and didn't get the time change, and that's why some of you didn't get the reminders. Did your time change in Canada? This isn't like a Canada joke. I know your time zone is one. It did? Okay. Because I know
there are some provinces in Canada that don't. Right. Yeah, Saskatchewan doesn't do
Arizona
that.
doesn't. In parts of Indiana don't hear. So it was a legit. That wasn't like a Canadian question. Like,
no, it's
do you guys
good.
even do time? I would love to go back to daylight savings being the only one that we have. Like, why do we even change? Like, why do we want it to get dark earlier? This makes no sense to me.
It's
anyway.
Pitch black at 4:00 now here. I hate it. Yeah, I agree. There should be no. It should. That's a conversation for another day. But I just think the time should be standard across the world.
All right. No. You want daylights. You don't want. Everybody always says they want standard. You want daylight. Daylight's the one that stays brighter longer. That's the one we want to stay. We don't want it to change back to standard. Yeah.
Correct.
All right. So which fart do you want to talk about next? Do you want to talk about the Cincinnati fart or the Dallas fart?
Oh man, both brutal. Let's just get Cincinnati out of the way.
All right, so let's talk Dallas. So Dallas ruined everybody's Survivor, including mine. Thanks a lot, Miami and Tua. I would have loved to be able to stick with you and had the guts to do so, but that Tua injury. Dak, trash. Until forget garbage time. He was trash.
Yeah,
he's trash time. And you know what? Honestly, Chris, he doubled down on being trash because he threw 2 touchdowns to Malik Turner. Like, it made it worse, dude. Like, you saved your day for fantasy, but it's almost kind of like you just twisted the knife in us for everybody that was out there hoping for Zeke, Cooper, or CeeDee Lamb. So the entire Dallas team just trash. This is another one. Is it a throwaway game like Buffalo? Like, are we taking anything out of this game? Realistically, like, joking, kidding, and laughing aside, do we take anything out of this game besides it's a throwaway week? Week 9 was crazy.
I think so. Yeah, I still like the team. You know, Dak did have just an awful game. He had 19 for 39. I was really surprised with Denver's defense. It looked like they had taken a couple steps back. I mean, they had just lost Von Miller. They traded him away, but they really stepped up and they played really strong. There's no excuse for Dallas here at home. 10-point favorites. They had scored at least 30 points at home with Dak, I think in like 6 or 7 straight games. I view it as just maybe an outlier game, a bounce back spot against the Falcons this week. That's kind of how I view it.
Well, on the flip side of that game, are you still, because now the price is going to get even more expensive, although it still might be under, are we still buying quote-unquote low on Melvin Gordon? Because Javonte Williams had another nice game, and people still want Javonte Williams, like Michael Carter, to be the guy, but it's not going to happen without an injury. So are you going to buy him? This would be perceived as a buy high, and I think that's why it's another chance to go get Melvin Gordon if you need running back help.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. I love the schedule too. I mean, the Eagles this week, and then out of the bye, they got the Chargers, the Chiefs, Detroit, Cincinnati, Las Vegas, and the Chargers. Honestly, it doesn't get any better than that.
Is Woody Page your idol?
Who?
Just wondering, because Woody Page, check the schedule. That's all he always wants to check the schedule for everything.
This time of the year, I'm checking schedules. It is all about matchups.
I will put it this way. I do, but I'm still not putting too much weight into weeks 15, 16, 17. Haha, I did it right. I almost said 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
Not too much because things can things can still change. Yeah, that's one too. Is people are like, oh, I can make this trade. It's like, well, can you even win the next 2 weeks if you make said trade? So Cortland Sutton in that game where they had a nice game. Jerry Jeudy had a nice game. Tim Patrick had the touchdown. It might not be the question people expect with this, Chris, but I go into this and say this is kind of what we expected if you were on the same page, is that Denver is essentially turning into now the Cincinnati Bengals with less clarity in the fact that at least with the Bengals, more often than not, Tyler Boyd is the one left out. Now, sometimes, like 2 weeks ago, he hits, and T. Higgins has an okay game, Jamar Chase did, but more often than not, it is Tyler Boyd. Conversely, with Denver, I feel like it's any person could be left out any given week, including Cortland Sutton, including Jerry Jeudy, and it's almost all three of them are wide receiver threes. Just put them all together.
Yeah. Cortland Sutton now has played 3 games with Jerry Jeudy, and he's finished outside the top 60 at wide receiver in each of those 3 games. He's the guy that I think really does take that hit. Tim Patrick's really good, and he's a good wide receiver. I was really impressed with him again yesterday. But again, a guy that's really hard to trust. I like Jeudy. His catch prop is at 4.5 plus money. Like if I see it again this week against the Eagles at 4.5, even if it's at 5.5, it'll probably be plus money. I'll take a shot on that. But yeah, it's how would you rank them? I think I would rank Jeudy 1.
Jeudy 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeudy 1, and then I don't know. I'd probably give benefit of the doubt to Cortland Sutton, but man, Patrick scores touchdowns, and Bridgewater looks his way inside the red zone.
I know. It's almost a coin flip between them. And if you took it away and said pure talent, only going to be question you if you say Sutton's first. Judy's extremely talented and on his heels, but maybe Sutton needs a new team or a new quarterback or a new offense.
New quarterback.
It's a run-first offense too, so.
It is.
Real quick, Davey T. Jake, is Mike Davis dead to us? Well, first of all, check the link. theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals. He's been dead and been droppable for weeks, plural. But I said don't drop him as in, don't drop him because you're angry, because now he fell into, a couple weeks ago, he fell into the next man up, like Samaje Perine and Savon Ahmed right now, even though he did nothing. But if something happened to Myles Gaskin, we'd be like, oh, go get Ahmed. He could be an RB2. That's who Mike Davis is now. So, yes, he is, but hey, check the link and let's talk about that game. Gaskin, touchdown saved his day. Really, honestly, in that point.
Yeah.
We don't have much to talk about on the Miami side, honestly, because it was Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki, as it has been anytime there has been no Devontae Parker, who is, by the way, on IR. It wasn't just aggravated the injury. It was aggravated the injury. You're on IR, dude. Let's talk about Houston side. Tyrod was as ugly as Tyrod normally is one of the safest quarterbacks in all of fantasy. The ceiling is super low, but it's like, hey, I'm getting 13 to 15 points. Yay, I know I'm getting QB 20 this week. That's who you get with Tyrod. You get QB 20 every single week. It was ugly. It was gross. And it was against a defense you should be able to do well against. Do you have concerns, or are you still, first game back, at least Brandon Cooks looked decent at times. Nico Collins might have value going forward. Is there anything you're taking away positively for the Texans?
Not really, man. The only positive thing is that Brandon Cooks had 13 targets. I mean, he caught 6 of them for 56 yards, but that's it. I mean, Lindsey leads the way with 8 carries. He's 28 yards. I mean, who cares, right? This team
Scotty
is...
Phillips might be out of the equation
brutal.
now.
Good.
So they're down to 3 until they find somebody off the
yeah.
street to promote. They're going to call in Frank Gore. No, we have to have 4 running backs.
They may. Who knows? They may do that. Yeah, David Johnson could get cut or released. An injury could happen where maybe it becomes a little bit more clear. But, yeah, Taylor threw the ball 43 times, and he was 24 for 43 for 240 and had 3 picks. So, I don't know. In a super flex league, I think you could hang and roll him out potentially with bias here. But there's no positives on this Houston team. It's just free cooks, right? Get him on a real football team, which is not going to happen.
I was surprised he was so angry about the trade. I was like, I would have thought he wanted to get the hell out of there too. Like, so
the trade be next.
Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been pissed off and have been like, "Where's my trade ticket?" Like that.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he had that response because he's still on the team and everybody else is getting traded. And if he had that response, then maybe they say, you know what, fine, we'll trade you too.
Where's mine? Okay,
yeah,
I can see maybe that way. Corey, we are going to talk Deonta Foreman in 2 games. We're getting to him, so let's hold off, and we got to talk Cincinnati because, the funny thing is, Chris, this is another one. I had Burrow not as a QB1 for this week, and then I was essentially Shanahan'd into it. It was like I had 2 in front of him, gone. I had Taysom Hill in front of him, not the starter, gone. I had Kyler Murray in front of him, gone. I was like, well, I guess Joe Burrow's now inside of my QB1s, and I still didn't want to do it. I wasn't expecting it to be that bad. I still had Joe Burrow in my top 15. Let's be clear. I am a Burrow fan. He had been remarkably efficient this year. The reason I didn't have him as a QB1 because I said that efficiency has to hold against a very bad or a very bad matchup, a very good defense. And I'm worried about that efficiency because if he was going to throw 40 times against the Browns, I'd still say QB1. And that didn't happen. It went completely sideways as many ways as possible. Terrible interception for a touchdown. Just looked like junk yesterday. I know I've asked this question for 2 teams already, but is this another we're throwing it away, bad matchup, 1 week, or is there a legitimate concern for you in the passing game? Because a week ago, Chris, I said trade Joe Burrow, trade Jamar Chase, trade T. Higgins because the schedule gets bad and people said I was stupid. And I said, understand context. I'm not saying give them away, but this started the schedule of it's a pretty rough schedule the rest of the way for the Bengals passing game.
Yeah, it is, and we talked about that a lot last week. So I don't know. I think we're right. I mean, now you got Joe Burrow who's coming off the bad game and a bye week, but you could have got a whole lot for him heading into this matchup. It's tough to trade quarterbacks in single quarterback leagues. It's a little bit easier in super flex leagues. People go to the waiver wire and stuff, but it was everybody inside this offense because of the schedule, which you alluded to. I mean, in Denver, week 15 is not going to be, a great matchup, even though he torched the Ravens. It's tough too.
At Las Vegas, out of the bye, their pass rush is one of the best pass rushes, and they just what they did to the Giants. You get Pittsburgh, Chargers, tough defenses. San Francisco could be hit or miss any given week. At Denver, as you mentioned, Baltimore and Kansas. That's the thing. If you can make it to week 16 and 17, you get the Raiders and Ravens and the Chiefs. Like, if you can make it that far.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be able to make it. I don't want to chalk this up as just another game. So it's back-to-back losses now against the Jets, right? The Jets the week before that. So, I mean, Las Vegas is not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot on the line in that game. Las Vegas plays pretty good at home. The Steelers are not going to be easy, as you alluded to as well. So, yeah, it's just, man, that was a brutal game. It was his worst game of the season. He now has picks in 5 straight, 7 over that span. He's got 11 interceptions on the season. He looked to me like he was panicking a bit. Cleveland can dial up some pressure. Myles Garrett can really get after you. But to me, it looked like he was just uncomfortable in the pocket. He's running around left and right, and then he's sacked. And, there was a couple fluke plays, but he's had these plays, 3 or 4 weeks in a row with turnovers inside the red zone, some bonehead decisions, which have led to interceptions. So, I mean, I am a little concerned moving forward. And I really needed you last night, Joe Burrow. I really needed you, bud. And you only got me 7 points. So
everybody did. That was a little rough on there. The Cleveland side, Nick Chubb, huge day, but the offense outside of that was pretty. I mean,
well, they didn't really run any plays. It's just a weird game.
Jarvis Landry. I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones was a thing, and then Jarvis Landry was not. Jarvis Landry in a game with no Odell Beckham. So Donovan Peoples-Jones, though, legitimate pickup, right? Yes.
We're gonna talk about it tomorrow, 3 straight games for him. 70-plus yards, 3 straight. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk Falcons-Saints. Simeon, like I mentioned, Taysom Hill was not the starter. Taysom Hill actually did get sprinkled in a little bit, but Simeon was solid. Kamara, okay, but here's the concern about Kamara. Simeon, a quarterback. Mark Ingram.
Also Mark
and
Ingram,
Mark
yeah.
Ingram, well, let's be clear about this situation for everybody that might not know this. Mark Ingram was the one used in the passing game. Kamara wasn't. We're back to Kamara not even being used in the passing game, Chris. What's your panic meter on 1 to 5 and Kamara the rest of? Because before this game, before Simeon happened, before when Jameis Winston, it was Kamara's back to being top 5, no concerns. Jameis Winston knows to throw to him 8 times a game. Now 1 to 5, obviously Kamara's still an RB1, but is he back to that low end RB1 that we thought of before Jameis Winston realized it?
Yeah, I think so. I'd give him a couple ducks. He still got usage, like he still got some targets and caught a few balls. But the fact that Mark Ingram had 5 targets and 5 catches and 9 carries, right? Kamara had 13 carries. So Ingram clearly knows this offense. They like this guy. I don't think he's as good as when he was with the Saints before, but he's like, you got to feel much better about him. You could just forget about the minute that he was with Houston and the last year that he was with Baltimore. I think that this guy, I think it's a 1-2 punch, more so to what do you think, like 70-30 I think would be best case for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah,
And this
surprise if it's like 65.
yeah,
35
exactly.
at this point.
And they want to run the football. The quarterback play is brutal. So yeah, I mean Ingram is going to be a pain in Kamara's butt moving forward. Absolutely.
So the Patriots, Panthers, not much to talk about on the Patriots side. This is Patriots, it's Monday. Monitor the injuries. Everybody and their brother got hurt in that game, banged up at some point. Stevenson is what I said 3 weeks ago. If you want to trust Belichick as Bolden's the number 2, go right ahead. I warned you that it wasn't the case. I will victory lap the hell out of that because I said trust Harris, but do not trust who's behind him. But Stevenson was even threatening Harris, but again, Harris got banged up in that game. So anyway, watch that. Passing game is the passing game as always. We never won anything outside of maybe Hunter Henry and still stop. Everybody needs to stop. Hopefully, this is the one, Chris, where everybody can now get on board too. Stop telling me Jacoby Myers' touchdown is going to happen. I've been saying that for 4 weeks. Like, it's not going to, like, stop telling me this is the week. Okay, finally, if he scores 1 touchdown this week, you'll be like, oh, it happened. I told you it happened this week. No. Chris McCaffrey's back. That's what I want to talk about. We already talked about DJ Moore. I want to see if you agree with this because this is what I tweeted out yesterday morning before game action. I said, this is my process with running backs like Christian McCaffrey, and why I had Christian McCaffrey at 10 is because if a team brings back a running back on a team, this is like there's a lot of layers to this. So if they bring back a running back whose running back replacement was doing well, Chuba Hubbard was doing well, and I'm going to bring in the Bears in this conversation, and this is why. Khalil Herbert was doing well. Devontae Booker is doing well. So I'm saying all that to say, if they bring back a running back and the person was performing well, and it's a little bit ahead of schedule, that tells me, and, wait, I forgot this about the Panthers, and there's a guy who's inactive, Royce Freeman. That tells me the person's coming back and getting close to their workload, and that's why I had Christian McCaffrey, and that's why tonight, Chris, and maybe I'm going to be wrong about, I'm going to be right about the Panthers, but wrong about the what's the hell, the Bears. I was having a brain fart there because I'm in the middle of the segment. Is that I expected McCaffrey to lead the way, and I actually think it could be a 50-50 split tonight because why else do you bring them back? Why else do you activate them? The Bears are about to hit a bye, and the person in front of them was performing. Do you think the same process?
Yeah, I do. I think I think even Herbert could potentially be the lead tonight. Maybe he starts the game and he gets a few carries, and then they could make that switch to Dave Montgomery. But yeah, I mean McCaffrey. I mean Chuba Hubbard was playing pretty good, right? So I understood why he was on the field a little bit. And you know it was a really tough matchup. You wanted to just ease in CMC. But yeah, I do think it'll be. I think it'll be close to a split here tonight. That's interesting, that backfield moving forward, because the Bears' schedule is pretty nice as well, looking at the schedule. Chicago's schedule is pretty nice, so I don't know. Dave Montgomery could be an interesting buy low candidate. I wonder, if he fully takes over after, a couple weeks, but Herbert deserves to get some play tonight.
Okay. All right, let's talk the Tennessee situation. Rams, another just a lot of those this week. So many.
Oh,
Van Jefferson's doing things if you need a deeper wide receiver. We've covered him a couple times. Sonny Michel was in a lot of their 2 and 3 minute drillage because it was a 2 minute drill, but they started around the 3 minute mark at the end of the. But also the game was out of hand. Darrell Henderson got banged up a little bit in that game. Not a lot to talk about from the Rams side. The Tennessee side is interesting because Adrian Peterson got lead work as we expected. McNichols got his work. That McNichols' role didn't really change as we expected. But the one thing that we might not have expected, Deontay Foreman's involvement. Deontay Foreman was eating Adrian Peterson's share. Now, is this because, in your mind, Chris, it's Adrian Peterson's first game, Or if you watch both running backs, he looked more explosive than Peterson. Peterson did get the touchdown. He got the goal line carry, which points to more important touches. All that being said is, how do you feel about this backfield after one game of Foreman, Peterson, and McNichols?
I feel like it's a bloody mess. I feel like it's going to be a mess moving forward. I think if you own A.J. Brown, I think that's great. If you own Tannehill, I think that's great. I think that they're going to have to throw the football. I don't think that they're going to be able to run the football all that good. Yeah, Julio he looked good again. I'd like to see him get more work. It seems like every catch he has is like a screen pass for 8 or 9 yards, but he did look good. He's running some routes out there. But yeah, Foreman did look like the better back. I think that the goal line touches will go to Adrian Peterson. They really wanted to get him a touchdown last night. You could see that. He struggled to get in the end zone. It looked really tough for him to get in. It doesn't look like a guy that has a lot of burst left. You trust him as a veteran. You trust him to pick up blitzes. You'll trust him maybe to get that short yardage and the goal line work. But I think that Foreman deserves some touches. Pick him up. I wouldn't play him, but you pick him up. It's a mess.
Is this backfield the same as your Eagles backfield, essentially, then? Because, is Jordan Howard, are we doing this? We have to do this, right? Jordan Howard's an RB2. Are we stuck with this Jordan Howard's back?
Another week. You got the Broncos this week. I don't know, man. It's crazy. He looked good.
I know. But it's like Peyton Barber when he was filling in for the Raiders.
I know. It really is. It's the exact same. He looked good yesterday running the football. The Eagles have had more of a balanced
Spider-Man
attack.
meme with Peyton Barber and Jordan Howard pointing at each other.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely seems like the goal line back, right? It's a couple weeks in a row. I know Boston Scott was sprinkled in a couple weeks ago. But also we have to keep in mind that they just played two of the weakest run defenses in football back-to-back weeks where Jalen Hurts hardly threw the football. They ran all over Detroit, and then they ran all over the Chargers yesterday. The schedule is again, I'll go back to it. It's as nice as it can possibly be. We've talked about it so many times on the show, we don't really need to bring it up. It's the NFC East and the Jets. But Sanders is going to come back, and it's going to be also a bloody mess. But I think, if you need someone this week, it really will be, don't you think? It's hard to trust.
Week 9 was a bloody mess.
It's a bloody mess. I think you can play him as a flex. Against the Broncos, it's not the best spot, but I think you.
All right, some quick hitters as we get out of here with about 1 minute. Mike Williams, are you still buying low? Because it was another meh week for him.
I am, yeah. Go back to that schedule. I'll buy low.
Anything to take away at all from the Packers side of things with Jordan Love under center? There's not really.
Just that their future doesn't look all that bright.
If it is. I'm saving this for tomorrow, but Chris, you get to have your input here. 1 to 5 Ducks. What is now your level of concern with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense?
Oh, man. 3? It's got to be. Okay. I'm giving them a 3. I give them a 3. They're stubborn. They are stubborn. They won't run the football.
We'll put that in the
Teams
pin. We'll see if Lauren has more or fewer Ducks than you do at this point, because I've been digging in my heels too, to say Patrick Mahomes. But before we get out of here, Minnesota, Baltimore, Freeman and Bell look good. I mean, Bell got a touchdown. Bateman, decent, okay game. Marquise Brown was kind of, that should have had a bigger day. Thielen saved by a touchdown. Anything you took about that matchup? That game, the funny thing is, as we get out of here, that entire game was like the one where it's just kind of what is there really much to say? It was that's the Ravens, that's the Vikings. That's kind of how I feel.
I thought another positive game for Bateman, involved targets, great game. I think Freeman is the lead. If Latavius comes back, I think Freeman's the lead, but it still will probably be, quote unquote, a bloody mess. But to give the benefit of the doubt to Freeman, and Conklin led the team in targets yesterday. I expect a little bit more from Adam Thielen.
Start tight ends against the Ravens, period, done, end of sentence. That's really what it comes down to, unless you're talking I can't even think of anybody. I wouldn't even risk the Giants. Oh, no, actually, both Giants with the way that Jason Garrett would give him 15 targets each out there, clapping the whole time if they were facing the Ravens. At Chris Meaney, he is not poop. He is not bloody mess. He is glorious if you're following, especially for hockey. Over at FTN, code 20% off is all in, if I could say that in the proper sentence structure, which I didn't. And also theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals, first free month. We'll be back tomorrow with Lauren to find out how many Ducks she's given the Chiefs. And feel free to, tweet us and tell us what you're most frustrated about. We're here. That's what we're doing. Therapy Mondays. We're here for you. Good luck.